I think astrology absolutely has gone through a huge boom,
Hmm.
and it's been great for
When did
astrologers.
you notice it?
I do think that it is, my feeling is that it's Neptune in Pisces. I know, like,
So
I mean, I've been
2011-ish.
12, yeah, 2011, 2012, really. We saw, at the end of the Mayan calendar, and there was such a focus on this
Hmm.
message, the end of the world. Um, and it was so interesting how just after that, I felt like really the interest and how astrology started to be discussed more and more in the mainstream really started to grow after that. It actually happened in Montreal, where someone went to be a roommate in a shared housing home. And when they left, they got an email from one of the people in the house that basically said, hey, we're all mutable signs here. And we thought that, you with your fixed whatever, probably not going to, be with our flow the same way. And of course, this ended up going viral because it was called, what was it called? It was called like astrological discrimination or something like that. I got to be honest here. Pluto and Aquarius, think about what happened when Uranus was discovered. When Uranus was discovered, it changed the definition of science. Astrology became vilified. Astrology was chased out of Western universities.
Mm.
Astrology went underground, right? And it was with the discovery of Neptune that astrology was able to re-enter Western society, Western
Mm.
culture, as a spiritual practice.
Interesting.
It was with the New Age movement that astrology found a new home. And then, of course, the psychological astrologers, also our ancestors in astrology, again helped astrology to adapt. Astrology is a living practice. It becomes whatever it needs to be to serve the people it is meant to serve at a given point in history, in a given culture.
Cancel culture is real. And we certainly don't want any movement or conversation to get started along the lines of cancel astrology. We don't want that to get triggered. And that is something that makes it important for us to, be responsible, take on an opportunity to get proper training. When I started, I was self-taught. I was self-taught for about 7 years, and I did have, I'll just say, the wisdom enough. Hey, let me place myself under someone else's tutelage who's been doing this for a long time, who has some astrology credentials, and who knows this and can teach me how to do astrology in an appropriate way. So the year 2072, 50 years from today, I see it where Fortune 500 companies will have job descriptions to hire astrologers, knowledgeable and professional astrologers.
One of the things that I definitely see happening now in astrology, and I think that this branches out into other arenas as well, but with this shift, particularly since, when Uranus was traveling through Aries and we saw this, leap in our technology and all the ways that we now connect in a cyber way that was totally, unheard of and not available before then. And so I feel like with astrology, one of the ways that we see that it's booming, particularly in the market of what they would say, 20 to 25-year-old females, is I think, again, in any practice, but particularly, arts like astrology that help you understand yourself better or understand those around you better. There is such a hunger for that. And I think that there is always been a hunger for that. But again, this element of new ways to explore. And especially, I would say, since the 2020 conjunction of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, we've also seen this, you've mentioned this before, of this distrust in our structures, distrust in authority figures, distrust in the things that once held us, the things that we once felt were solid. And part of that distrust, or at least a suspicion that's stepping into it, is this feeling that what have I, subscribed to, intellectually in the past or emotionally or spiritually that I can now revisit, that I can now peel back different layers or explore areas that I thought were, seen as taboo or seen as, fringe in a way that people might have, distanced themselves. And so I think that, again, there is this element of astrology that it's loosening those taboos that used to exist, and people feel like it's more approachable. They don't have the stigma of it. And then again, there's that hunger, that desire of what can I understand more? Where have my own blinders been on, and what can I search for? And so, again, I think that part of the changing of astrology is the changing of the entire landscape of humanity.
Well, thanks, Maurice. Just on a quick note, I do appreciate the invitation to talk about these things with OPA, because OPA is kind of setting the bar for the professionalism of astrology. And I think these talks need to be more readily available about looking not just what we're doing now, but how astrology is going to be affected by the merger with higher intelligence in the form of AI. I don't even call it AI anymore. I go into that sometimes, but SI, super intelligence. One of the things that I've been involved in is astrophysiognomy, the trying to read the face. Well, we've talked about doing this with Google AI, DeepMind for a while now. And then I've actually got in touch recently with someone, actually they got in touch with me because they read my article in OPA. That about the Google DeepMind and how to apply this. So we're discussing teaching a machine, actually letting the machine figure it out for itself with vast amounts of data. If it can figure out all the different nuances of the human face to determine a rising or a sun sign or a moon sign and whatnot. So let the machine figure it out, but we have to give it the ability and the opportunity to do so. We have to ally with AI in this sense to teach it that there is this component. And I think it's doable through a process such as this.
And if society takes astrology for real, then there are some unintended consequences that could arise from that. In other words, is a life insurance company going to want to take a chance on someone whose chart indicates a short life? A chart that indicates an accident-prone person? Is your auto insurance going to be higher than that? Is your chart going to be taken into account in a criminal court? So there are all, if society really took astrology seriously, and I know a lot of people dream that it will be, I think we really need to think that through, because there would be a bunch of unintended consequences.
Whilst we remain self-regulating, and this is what homeopaths did, it's what psychotherapists did before they became mainstream. And we do have those systems in place, like OPA is one of them. The Association of Professional Astrologers is another. I'm also part of the new International Association of Ethics in Astrology. Mm-hmm. Things like this. These are the sort of self-regulating bodies that can help, maintain, like you say, credibility to our profession.